Ta-da! We're here. It's Tuesday. Gosh, Josh, I messed up already. It's Tuesday night. Where I'm just with all these things going on and having 3 shows. I just get so excited. Okay, maybe not so much. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight's topic will be education and weddings with Josh Mitchell. Good evening, Josh.
Good evening. Good to be with you.
Yes, thanks for coming on tonight. It's time
to be here.
Time to talk about education, wedding, importance, and different things, because this is something that a lot of us who are really have been into the industry for a while and are passionate about. We have become really passionate about this. And Josh, I really want to kind of dig into that tonight a little bit about where this passion for helping the next generation of DJs really started from in your life.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about that. And I think about all the people that, maybe where I was 10 years ago right now. And I think about the questions that they're asking and, the trajectory that they're on. And it's exciting to me to pass knowledge on to them so that they can be more successful.
Yeah, for sure. That's been a big part of, my life for the last 25 years. Going even back before I started with the Disc Jockey News things and even the conventions we started doing in the early 2000s, or late 90s actually. But when I had a staff, when I had 8, 10, 12 DJs working for me and training and really helping them to grow their business, what kind of started you down that road? What was that thing that said, hey, you know what, I can do this and there's a need for it?
Yeah, well, I love thinking in systems, and I like putting things together in a way that makes sense. And, as a creative person, and a lot of DJs, I think sometimes fall into that category, whether you're a musician or you just love music and you love just kind of getting into it, it can kind of just feel like, all right, I'm gonna get there and it's all gonna come together. I'm gonna make it happen. And, you do that a couple times and sometimes it works out and you get lucky, sometimes it doesn't. But I started wondering, when I had the success, what if I could break down the success into a formula? And everybody gets weird, especially creatives, when you use the word formula or you start talking about systems. But what if it could be a system where the creativity and the enthusiasm and the energy, what if that could be built into the system so that there's still some room for spontaneity and some excitement and things like that? And I just, I wanted to stop DJing. That's what kind of motivated me to start, putting this together, because I was like, you know what? This is a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of physical energy. There's also a lot of planning, a lot of mental energy that goes into it. And I knew that I needed a better path forward so that I didn't have to just wing it every single time. So that's really what kind of motivated me. I needed the system for myself.
Sure.
And then, now I want to share it.
Sure. And when you're talking about that system for yourself, that was probably one of the first things I did once our path to multi started with myself, and then more calls coming in, and then we're talking 1990. More calls are coming in. Well, what do? Oh, you tap your significant other. That's what we did. And now Lori's doing a show, and it became that, okay, so now how do I take, she's been with me, but how do I take what I do and hand it to her? Mm-hmm. And when you mentioned that system, that's exactly what we did is point by point. And you started to put these things together, and obviously you were using it yourself, but were you able to take that out and try it with other people then, or how did you really hone this system?
Yeah, so that was another one of my strategies. Was I thought about this idea of, do I expand and start a multi-op? And people even to this day are like, why don't you just take your existing business and teach your thing to employees and just send out DJs doing your system? And I thought about that monster, so to speak, of this idea of you can feed the monster and you can put more money into it. And, it's just going to become a bigger monster where you're feeding it larger, chunks of money in order for it to stay alive. And it just wasn't something that I was interested in. So my strategy was, what if I could get some of the people that were helping me as assistants? And what if I could teach them how to go out and DJ on their own? Like, I didn't want to manage them. I didn't even want to deal with any of the contracts or, have to do all the details of it. I just kind of wanted to empower them and equip them. So I started sharing this just, informally with friends and, some of my assistants so that they could go out and do their own weddings without me. And it really was just a strategy so that when people called me, I didn't have to tell them no. I could actually give them somebody that I could trust and say, hey, look, you might not be able to get me, but here's some of the people that I've trusted and that I've worked with and that I know are going to deliver a similar result.
So let's dig into that a little bit, because this is a I don't want to call it a rabbit hole, but that probably is the best way to describe it. Many DJs find themselves in. They start into the industry. They're booking shows because people like what they do. They like them as a person. They're cheap, whatever the main reason is. So they're booking shows. And because of either skill, ability, or cheapness, they're getting more and more bookings, and their friends are hiring. They get to that point where they're going to make the jump. You made a decision to not go multi. And of course, I get to the point where I left multi, and I think our decisions are probably based on the same information. For those who are out there, let's talk about this for a few minutes of why we aren't multi today. What was that? What were some of those? And you mentioned just a little bit, but let's dig into that a little bit deeper on some of those pitfalls of being that multi operator.
Sure. So I got married in 2016, and we're coming up on 4 years. And my wife at the time was a pre-K teacher. So she was teaching Monday to Friday, leaving at 7 a.m., sometimes getting home, as teachers know, later on in the evening. And it doesn't stop when you get home. You working on lesson plans and that kind of thing. And that year of 2016, I think, was the year I had more weddings than I ever, I was booking kind of at a cheaper rate. So 2016 blew up in terms of bookings. I think it was around the 40 number, which for me was a lot.
For most
so
people,
I
that's a
didn't
lot,
really
yeah.
see my wife a whole lot. So she would work Monday to Friday. And then I would DJ a wedding sometimes Friday night, Saturday night. And then on Sundays, I'm doing production stuff and music at church. And then I would just crash on Monday and then not see my wife again until the next cycle.
Wow, that sounds way too familiar.
So here I am, just about 4 years ago, and I'm thinking, what's the kind of marriage that I want to have? What's the kind of lifestyle that I want to have? We didn't, and we don't have kids yet, but I'm thinking to myself, what kind of routines and rhythms is this going to look like in 5 or 10 years from now? So I kind of did that quick mental math, and I thought to myself, all right, I'm going to double my rates and see if I get less bookings. And so I did that, and I did get less bookings, but not as many less as I would have hoped. And then I doubled them again. And then I realized that, okay, so I can do a handful of events, like less than 10 events, and still earn a pretty good wage. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with doing that smaller number of events. I can get out there. I can kind of do my thing. And, I enjoy it when it's small. I don't enjoy it when I'm not able to spend time with my wife and pursue some of my other passions and things like that.
And I think this, to tie into that spending time at home, when you are a multi-operator, even though, yes, I can be at home. I mean, if a lot of you know Mike Walter, and Mike Walter, of course, is kind of the poster child when it comes to the multi-system company, because he's done it and done it well. But that spending time at home with your family, when I have staff and I had staff going out, even if I wasn't out there, mentally, I wasn't with my family because I'm busy. I wonder if they got set up okay. I wonder if that's working. I wonder if they had that first song lined up like they were supposed to have it. You're just not mentally there. That managing people you had referred to earlier can kill a person. And that's, in many ways, that's the biggest reason why I no longer do the multi thing. And I think I applaud you for looking at that and saying, you know what, my wife is more important than this, and I'm going to go and handle it this way. That's much more mature than I was back in the 90s. when I went the other direction. And thankfully, I've got a loving, supporting wife. Otherwise, it would have been, it was tough on her. I know it was because of that exact same schedule. She works during the week. I was working on the weekends once she stopped DJing, and that was tough.
And I was feeling a little bit of this isolation effect because, the majority of the world is working from Monday to Friday. Yeah. And then I was working the whole weekend. And this idea of okay, it's a Monday, but I'm kind of taking my day off, and it's a Tuesday and I'm still a little, exhausted. But I kind of wanted to try the other thing. Like I didn't have the opportunity to really like, hey, what if I tried it the other way? And I didn't want to get locked into something and build this thing and then go, what was I doing? And at the time, and this is, there's a whole nother rabbit trail we could talk about, but I don't want to take too much time. I had actually launched a video company with a friend. So we were actually going to pursue, and we've decided not to do that. We've gone in different directions. But at the time, we were actually working on a video company. So not only were we DJ on weddings Fridays and Saturdays together, we were also doing client video shoots during the week and trying to get our video business up and running. So it was just, it was a little too much. It was fun. Like I had a good time. But just thinking long-term strategy with those items, I'm just like, okay, where, in 10 years from now, am I going to be in a position where I can go, okay, this is worth it. And I didn't want to be a workaholic, and I still don't. That's just something where, I want to make sure that I have bandwidth and I have availability. And I think that's a great gift to be able to give people, is the gift of availability and not feeling like, you're constantly pulled in a million directions.
And that gift, as you have children, and is the most valuable gift, that a gift of time, that availability for them. Tonight we're talking with Josh Mitchell from the weddingdjschool.com. Weddingdjschool.com. You guys can pop out there and take a look at his website. We're talking about training. We're talking about life. We're talking about, our favorite pizza top. Oh, we're covering it all tonight in the show. It's going to be absolutely fabulous.
That sounds good. I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Now all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh, Domino's." Well, wait a second. That's punishment. Yeah, that's not good pizza. So you were DJ, and you're coming to this point, but you've got this knowledge. You have developed a system that has really helped you become more successful in what you're doing, and yet not eating up all that personal time, which you covet so much. When did you decide that it was like, I can take this and share this and really make this something that will help other people in the industry?
Mm-hmm. So in 2016, and this is like, I'm sharing this story and I'm thinking to myself, nobody wants to hear this, but I started actually writing a course and filming an entire video series in 2016. Because we were starting this video production company, I'm like, why not just start doing this now? And I finished filming all of it, and I'm thinking to myself, this isn't very good. This isn't like that.
Yep, I know what you mean by.
I don't even want to watch this. And all these hours, I think I had like 28 modules, and I'm thinking nobody wants to go through 28 modules. And I had not really spent the time to, develop a following and, kind of get out there and just start showing up and meeting people online and just kind of, being a voice in the community. So I said, what if instead of trying to launch this whole thing on the front end, what if I actually, reversed it and just started trying to, meet some people, talk with people. And then through that, back in 2018, early part of 2018, I re-recorded the entire course with only 8 lessons and kept it really simple, wanted to get it down to the bare bones. And I had a friend, really close friend, who was kind of encouraging me because he really wanted to make it as a wedding DJ. And he's been DJing events this year, and I'm very proud of him using that system. So I started off with the audio only version. I sent him just all the audio clips of everything. So he started listening to that. And then it took me a little bit while longer to put all those slides together. But I'm thinking of that person, that very specific person who's on the beginning part of their journey.
Right.
And so much of the training that's out there either focuses on the technical skills of here's how to beat match, or here's how to think about, genres, and more of the technical DJ part of it, and kind of getting into, cabling and that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of that out there. So I'm thinking, I don't want my course to be, focused on that kind of approach. I want to focus on the stuff that's a little bit more intangible, the stuff that, not everybody's always talking about. Some of the more of just, how do we encourage people to be resilient and not burn out? How can we encourage people to pursue excellence and not just, mediocre, that kind of thing? So when it's in you and you just want to share it, you just can't, you can't not share it. And that's kind of where I was.
Sure. And it's great as you're describing that, and you're talking about that you had a vision of the type of person that this was going to be designed for. And that's such a critical thing with whatever you guys are out there doing. If you're doing your marketing and putting that together, or you're designing your show to fit a certain person, it really is important to define who that person or who those people are, so you can actually do things to fit them properly, as opposed to trying to be that jack of all trades. And I kudos for you, Josh, there to be saying, okay, this isn't going to be for those guys over here who are wanting to, go from, no scratch to scratch. This isn't for you. This is right here. This is for you, and it's going to be the most benefit for this crowd. So good methodology with that. So you went from 28 down to 8. How did you how did you bolt things off the island due to what to leave in that in the course?
Yeah, I just started batching things together that looked similar, cutting a bunch of things. I would actually bounce things off my wife. I'm like, does this make sense to you? And if it didn't make sense to her, I was like, all right, I'm cutting it. I don't need that. And yeah, all of those different modules. It's like I've done so many online courses in the field of marketing and communications. And I'm thinking of Amy Porterfield, who's one of the leaders in email marketing and online courses and things like that. I've been following her for years, and she has changed her courses a lot. They used to be really, really long, and then I wouldn't finish them. And I'm thinking, like, if I'm not finishing one of her courses, then she's supposed to be the best. How can I get it down to something that's more of a 1, 2, 3? And I couldn't get it down to 3 steps, but the 8 seemed to be a little bit more manageable. And, it was a process. And I remember writing it all out on a whiteboard and, saying, okay, I feel like that's good. I'll stop there, because I wanted to ship it. I wanted to get it out the door.
So you wanted to ship, you wanted to get it done. Where did the balance between having it perfect and having it done? How did that? I mean, when I've created some different things like that, it's a struggle. How did that struggle evolve in your world?
Man, so you can Google this. You can Google Seth Godin's Ship It Journal. Mm-hmm. Seth Godin's Ship It Journal. Yep. And you can print it out. It's free. And I had printed out maybe 5 different versions of the Ship It Journal. And basically the premise is that they used to call it FedEx days or Ship It days at Google and at some of these other great companies of, hey, we're going to get everybody together. And in one day, your goal is to come up with a product, come up with an idea, and then ship it, like put it in the box and send it. So he developed this exercise that is supposed to help you to be able to ship faster. Sure. And I think the Steve Jobs quote is something, and I might not be getting this perfectly, but it's something along those lines of, great artists ship. And like, okay, I'm not doing that. And I have this thing that's been in my head and, I want to share it with people. Yeah. And done is better than perfect. And don't let the enemy be the perfect, or don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And those quotes, I just started like putting them up above my computer every day and saying, okay, I need to ship this. I need to get this out the door, and I need to just stop talking about it, and I need to start doing it. Right.
It's kind of like having, that book in your heart there that it's like, I always wanted to write the novel, and then you just got to do it. So you put the program together, and of course, then I'm sure you've had some of your friends and such that were testing this and went through this. What kind of feedback were you getting from the first draft as you were going through it?
Well, yeah, that first draft didn't have all the visuals. So they're saying, can you please give us some visuals? You're giving me all this audio. It's like this 8-hour audio book. And, I want to have some visuals for it. So that was one of the first things, is that instead of doing the direct to camera thing, because there was a version that was all direct to camera, I switched over to, okay, what if I sit down and design a slide and do more of a slide deck approach? Sure. And it's not just like a boring, 100 words on a slide. I really tried to go at it with more of like a very visual. Every lesson has, a ton of images, like within, every couple of seconds. Wanted to get that out there for those short attention spans and for people. And I'm thinking of the Gen Zers, or, what they're starting to call the homelanders, the people that are constantly on their phones. I'm thinking of that person watching this and designing it in such a way where it's visually engaging. And it also, they're not like tuning out to go, do something else that's better, but they're trying to, hey, this is capturing my attention. So the visuals was the biggest thing that I needed to incorporate into it to make it more compelling and useful.
We are talking to Josh Mitchell here from Wedding DJ School, weddingdjschool.com. You guys can go out and take a look at the website and such. He's got the program out there that we've been talking about tonight. Josh, our time, we're going to kind of wrap things up here in just a little bit. You've got the program, it's all put together, and people are having success with that and such. What kind of things if someone who's going to be getting into this, what kind of things are they going to get from this that they'll be able to take and improve in their lives? The takeaways.
Well, yeah, one of the big takeaways is that when you have a system and you have really a systematic approach, you stop guessing, you stop doing the trial and error thing, and you really start basing things off of a strategy. And having a strategy for what you do, even if it's not the right strategy, is better than no strategy at all.
Yeah,
And I think way too many people just hope. They wake up and they hope that things are going to go well. So I don't even care if people follow me. I'm just saying follow something and just follow the system and see what kind of results it gets you. And at the end of it, you can just ask yourself the question. I have a good friend who just says, hey, look, if it goes terrible, we can still ask ourselves the question when we're done, what did we learn?
Right. Yep.
And that's kind of, I want people to, if they're having that mindset about, what's out there, even on YouTube, and what's free and what's available, I think that approach brings a certain level of expectation, knowing that okay, what did I learn after that, and even if it was terrible, what can I take away from that and try to implement.
Yeah, and that's something that we talk about an awful lot on our shows when we're talking about DJ conventions and people going to conventions or educational experiences. And it's like every seminar I sit in, I have learned something. Sometimes it's been that one little cool tidbit. Sometimes it's been the other side of what not to do. And many times it becomes the what not to do, especially as I've gotten more advanced in the industry and you've been around, you hear things and it's nothing new, but you can learn the good and the bad for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes you learn more from the bad, and I'm not necessarily saying, I mean, who knows, my stuff might be terrible, but that's why I wanted to put the YouTube channel up and start talking, just hey, let's put some thoughts out there and see what people think and how they're feeling about things. So my YouTube channel, Wedding DJ School, is really just an effort to let me start sharing some of these ideas for free. So even before you start thinking of more of the systematic approach, what is an introduction to what it means to be a wedding entertainer? And I think that most people haven't had a formal introduction to what that is. They kind of stumble on it. They kind of like, they talk to a friend or they experience a wedding here or there. And then slowly but surely they start to build their own business off of that. And I just wanted to try to see if I could package it all together in one place and also be a pointer to say, hey, go listen to this person. Go listen to John. He's a good guy. Go listen to this guy here, and be that, just another voice and for encouragement. And I want to encourage people and not to just say, passively, hey, go try it and good luck, but say, hey, you need to expect setbacks, and you need to expect that moment when, your mic's going to feed back, or when, it's a failure at the end of the night and you're like dealing with that inner, stress. So I really think of the emotional labor side of it as well, and want to, raise the profile of that conversation of what does it mean to do emotional labor, not just all the physical stuff and the mental stuff that goes into it, but putting our heart into our work. And, that's just so important. And I think for the brides and the grooms that are out there for the years to come, that's important to them. They sense that sense of genuineness and an authentic spirit. And I think that's a conversation and really just something that we all can always get better at. We can always grow in our self-awareness and just how we perceive ourselves, how we're communicating, how that emotional experience is happening. So I think that's a big piece that's going to continue to be important in the years to come for new DJs, but also even for the ones that are already in the game. It's going to need to be important for them, for the clients that are coming.
I would agree wholeheartedly. You talked about the genuineness, and I think that's something as we get older in the industry, we've been there, seen that. We can be a little jaded sometimes. It's like, oh, I want to have the most beautiful wedding, and an older DJ is going to be like, yeah, you and every other bride. I think that even though I didn't say that, but that excitement, that genuineness, that creating that emotional connection with the couple is something that for DJs over the age of 40 who've been doing this for 20 some years, they're having to relearn that this is important stuff, especially when you're working with a younger bride, because it isn't just the old, oh yes, and would you like a microphone with that? Check. Would you like, okay, great, here's your bill. Kind of the McDonald's method of ordering. That's not today. That's not the way it goes. So
yeah. And I think as the equipment gets better and better and easier to use, and I think about how incredible the equipment is. And over here off to the right of a soundboard that I used to record, and I think about like this stuff wasn't available 20 years ago.
Oh, certainly
like
not.
you couldn't build a studio I kind of had that dream for myself because I like to make music and I like to be able to do that kind of thing. But the cost of it 20 years ago was still astronomical. So what people can do today with a laptop, sometimes that's looked at as a threat because it's like, oh no, we're going to be out of business because it's so cheap now. But it's really not. It means that the emotional labor side of things, the genuine side of things, the authenticity, it means that that is what people are truly going to be paying for at the end of the day. It's no longer going to be about, do you have the competence to be able to operate the equipment and have the knowledge of how the day is supposed to go? It's going to be more, do I like working with you? And do I sense a connection in being with you? And that's something that it's very hard to teach, but it's a conversation that we have to have.
And when they do like you and they do want to have that conversation with you, they know that it's pretty quick. They can feel that. And of course,
you can't fake it.
And if you are faking it, or if you aren't genuine, what have you, then it might be time to, for those who are a little older and are having those issues, it might be time to step aside. That's for sure. Kind of give us just a couple minutes left here. Give us an overview. If somebody wants to get into the program, what is the process? And then what kind of a time commitment, are they looking at for that and such? Let's start from there.
Yeah, well, I would say one of the first things to do is to check out the podcast and either on YouTube or on Apple Podcasts, because that's going to set a tone of like, do you even like, listening to me and hearing me?
8 hours
like,
with
and
no
if
slides.
you don't, like, I'm not offended by that. Like, but just go somewhere else. Don't waste your time, because that's really a primer and a starting point. I created an action guide for every single episode of season 1 of the podcast. So there's 12 action guides, there's checklists, there's resources, books, summaries, all that kind of stuff, all for free for season 1 of the podcast. And that's really kind of a primer, kind of like, hey, if you're enjoying this and you're getting value out of this, the course is going to be for you.
Sure.
And I'm going to be continuing to release episodes every Friday coming up with different leaders in the industry that I've interviewed over the past several months. So that's going to start coming out on my YouTube channel as well. So that's a great place to start. As for the course itself, there are 8 lessons and each lesson is somewhere around a half hour. So I think fast pace works best. And the advantage that you have, if you're in a place right now, or if you know somebody that's really interested in this right now, is I'm not super well known yet. I don't have a ton of students yet. So that means I have a lot of time to invest in the people that are going through the course.
Sure.
So in this early stage, I want to be there as a resource online through Zoom, through chat, email, that kind of thing, to be able to help people go through each of the 8 lessons. It should only take about a week because each one is in that kind of half-hour time frame, but I think a shorter time frame is better. Of course, you have lifetime access to it. You can watch it as fast or as slow as you want to. If you wanted to binge the whole thing in a day, you could. But I do think that that binge culture, sometimes you miss some of the gold. Certainly. And you miss some of the important things. But it's a self-paced course, 8 different lessons, lots of visuals, videos, lifetime access online, very, very similar to a lot of the other courses that are out there.
Excellent. And again, you guys can go out to weddingdjschool.com, check that out. Or if you go out to on YouTube, I believe if you type in Wedding DJ School, I believe it pops up as one of the options there, and you can find the channel. Because I don't think your channel had a custom URL. I don't think it did.
Yeah, I'll look at that. Thanks, John. I have a lot to learn from you.
Yeah. So what you need to do is have weddingdjschool.com/videos and then hyperlink that over.
And it goes right there.
It goes right to YouTube page.
I might be able to set that up tonight.
So yeah,
I'm getting excited.
Yeah, pretty links are a wonderful thing. So. Well, thank you guys for being with us tonight. We just wanted to kind of get a little discussion about the educational side of it. For a lot of you, you've been in the business for quite a long time, so maybe you're not the starting up, but maybe there are some DJs in your world that this could be a great stepping stone for them to kind of get started in doing, setting up that system to be successful. We all know younger DJs in our area just might be the perfect thing, and you can share that link with them and help them out as they are getting started and help them do it right, compared to like we did, where we did the trial and error and mess, and at times it wasn't pretty. So Josh, thank you once again for being on tonight, and thank you guys for being with us, and we'll be back in about a half an hour. We got Ben Stowe coming up at the top of the hour. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, John.